So if we're being real, there were red flags in the beginning, but immediately, like when I would bring something to you right from the get-go, you were like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Yeah, I got to work on that and do that differently next time. Okay, we are back for part two. Part two of answering your questions about our relationship and how we met and all that stuff that we're going to talk about.
Yep.
So let's go to some more questions that we got from you guys. Oh, yeah, how did we meet? So we made a whole video about how we met, so we'll put the link to that in the description, but we can just go into it very briefly. Do you want to share how we met?
Well, Lindsay and I were both on the same spiritual Discord server, essentially. We had the same spiritual teacher, so we just started chatting on there.
Yeah, that's actually how we met. Yeah, we were in the same spiritual community following this spiritual teacher. So yeah, if you want to know more about that, we did a whole video. Mm-hmm. You can watch that one. Okay, next question. Were there any doubts about the relationship working when you first started dating?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember how long ago this was, but I think the first major thing in our relationship, maybe it was 2 years or a year or 2 years in or something like that, but I was still working through this desire for that conflict between a partner that was really wanting to do a ton of stuff out in the world and was super adventurous, and someone who's just more settled on just hanging out. And Lindsay is an adventurous person, but it's just it's a different kind of personality. It's a different kind of thing. And yeah, I think that was the main doubt. It took me maybe a week to work through that. We talked about it. I talked to my friends about it. What?
Sorry, I'm laughing because you're it took a week. That's not very long.
Oh, well, I mean a week of actual stressful time of conflict between Lindsay and I.
Yeah.
A lot of difficult emotional conversations, and then talking to my friends about it.
I'm sorry, I was laughing. I thought you were going to say it took you months of working through stuff. You're no, it's just a week.
Well, but
yeah.
I think this is how it works, at least for us. It's something will simmer underneath the surface and be unverbalized and unknown. It'll be subconscious or unconscious, and then something will happen, and then that unconscious event will actually come to the surface, and then that's when we had a week of kind of strife about it.
Well, so it sounds like you worked through it, and what did you realize in that week of introspection and talking to friends?
I kind of just surveyed the landscape inside of myself, and it was just I would rather just chill and get to know Lindsay better and settle into our relationship than have kind of this kind of freewheeling, very extroverted existence. Yeah, I mean, I assume that there'll be more tremors of that, but smaller ones where we'll think about it and talk about it more. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was a little while ago now, so it's hard to remember, but I don't know. There's just more of a sense of peace. It's kind of hard to put into words, a couple of years after the fact.
Yeah, because we did have a lot of discussions about it, and we made compromises too. I was all right, well, I can do more stuff so that you feel you have more of a sense of fun and adventure, and that seemed to help.
Yeah, I think it depends on the person. I think there are people who are genuinely very adventure oriented. They love to be outside and do all these things, but for me, I think it was just an opportunity to reflect on my life history. I have kind of want to do all those things, but every time I did all those things, ultimately what I wanted to do was just meditate and go back home. So it was kind of a reckoning for myself to grow through it and be I think I want this, but what I'm actually looking for is a greater sense of internal knowing of myself and internal peace. The adventure I wanted was to go inside. And so yeah, but I think that's for me personally. That's kind of a personal interest that I have.
Yeah, well, thanks for being open and sharing that with hundreds and thousands of people on YouTube. Yeah, thank you. As far as me, there were some doubts that were not as easily worked through, as it took more than a week for me. The first thing was our physical compatibility. I don't know if I can say the word on YouTube, but like, you can kind of catch my drift here. We actually had to talk about it.
We can't say that on YouTube.
I don't want to get demonetized. I'll just say that.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, like, we had to talk about it a lot, which was newer for me. I had more doubts than you about that in the beginning, and you kind of had to talk me through and say, like, no, like, we can work through this. I was like, I don't know if we can, because I literally had no experience with working through something like that. I came into our relationship under the impression that, like, it either worked from the get-go or it wasn't going to work. Like, that's just it. So yeah, like, we had to work on that, and it's much better now. But yeah, so there were some doubts about that in the beginning. And the other issue was some of the way that we were having conflicts. So in the beginning, it was a little bit difficult for us to work through conflict because we were both super sensitive and emotional, and sometimes you had difficulty with the anger that you would feel, which I had a big issue with, and we would talk about it a lot. And I would say things like, this has got to be better. Like, you've got to be able to speak to me calmly in conflict. Otherwise, we can't do this. And you did. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a hard journey, but yeah, eventually. Yeah. I mean, that's, I come from like a more like a defensive kind of like avoidant personality type, attachment type. And I think Lindsay's much more anxiously attached. Like, you know, like not so much these days, but
I say we're earned secure these days, but yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. I mean, I would say earned security is just the felt, and I wanted to talk about this earlier, but it's this feeling inside that you know that you're loved and that you're lovable and that you'll be okay alone.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just kind of came up with that right now, but like that's the sense I get. I mean, for me, it just took like a whole crap ton of like therapy, and Lindsay does energy healing on me.
I worked on him.
And a lot of personal growth, but
yeah. And that's the thing, like, so if we're being real, there were red flags in the beginning, but immediately, like, when I would bring something to you right from the get-go, you were like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Yeah, I got to work on that and do that differently next time.
Yeah, I think it's a game. It's like, it's hard to advise anyone in a video talking not to like one person visually, but to like hundreds or thousands, because it's like each individual situation is so nuanced.
Exactly.
But like, I heard there's I think a psychiatrist called like Healthy Gamer. I just saw like a tiny clip, and he was talking about how red flags in relationships, in the beginning of a relationship, it can actually be okay depending on the red flag, depending on the severity.
I just saw that video, I think, too. Yeah,
because it's like those red flags, if you work on them, then the relationship can become very strong.
Right.
And then you guys kind of have the experience of working through something very difficult together, which can strengthen the bond. But like, so just the disclaimer is like it really depends on the situation.
Oh, completely. Because I've been in relationships where there were red flags, and I would bring it to this person's attention, and they completely invalidated me and were like, no, that's a you problem, or really had no interest in changing their behavior. And so that's actually what kept me going, is the fact that you were able to own the behavior and were like, oh yeah, like, I'm sorry, I don't want to do that in the future. And you were able to take actual steps to change it and work on it.
Yeah.
And it's, we're cool now.
Yeah.
we do conflict much better now. Yeah, but so those were the two big things that I had doubts about, because I really didn't have much experience with, again, working through this with people. Like, in my past relationships, it was just more like my partner wasn't very responsive at all. So, yeah, it wasn't perfect from the get-go, and we certainly did have to work through a number of things, but I wanted to with you because I liked you, and we had fun together, and I was attracted and all that good stuff.
I mean, like, I kind of like think it goes back to love doesn't have to necessarily be romantic, like very emotionally or fantastically romantic, in order for it to be love or like even good or like even healthy.
Yeah.
Because like, I don't know. I think just through my clinical experience, my life experience, I think relationships all require some amount of significant work. Just for the fact that, we're all growing. We all have different forms of, capital and lower T trauma that we're trying to release and come to a better place with.
Yeah. And are you speaking of like compared to like the really high highs of like certain unhealthy relationship dynamics? Is that what you mean?
At least in my experience, and it's my intuition that this is the case generally, there can be like a certain kind of manic emotionality to really kind of ecstatic, high chemistry relationships that can burn really bright, and like I think those are okay as long as you can like actually process conflict.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a part of that, I mean, Lindsay's talked about this like ad nauseum in her in her content, but like a lot of that high emotionality has to do with some kind of, it's like the flip side of the coin of the suffering.
It is. Yeah.
So
that's such a good point. Yeah, because like I can say in my own experience now that I've done a lot more healing, and now that I'm in a place where like I'm pretty cool with myself. I still have stuff that comes up, but I'm way less wounded than I was in the past. Yeah, the emotions, like the stuff that I feel around love these days, it's not as intense. And I think like people hear that and they think like, oh, well, that's just like, that sounds awful. Like that doesn't sound like real love. But no, it's because I have done so much work to not be experiencing that flip side where it's like you described it, like the opposite of the suffering is that ecstatic high. I don't really feel those ecstatic highs anymore because I'm not suffering so much anymore. And so I'm like, overall, I'm just much more even keeled and grounded. And so how it shows up in our relationship is, yeah, there's not these like super intense high emotions, but like, I feel love for you. It's just it's calm. It's yeah.
I mean, that's my experience too. Like, I'd be open to hearing other people's experience with that, but my experience is in my teens and 20s, the emotions were very high, but for me, like the lows were very low.
Yeah.
And just over time, I've just become more content.
All right, we've got one more question here, and I think it's similar. Was there anything about each other you weren't sure about when you first got together?
I mean, we just answered that, I think.
Well, I have something that's kind of slightly different. Like, so I'm an introverted person, and you are a bit more extroverted. And
I'm like an ambivert.
He considers himself an ambivert. I still think you're for sure more extroverted than me. Mm-hmm. And so in the very beginning, I was thinking like, I don't know if this is going to work. I'd never dated someone who was more, let me, I was going to say, I never dated someone who's more extroverted. Let me check that. No, okay, I did when I was in high school. And yeah, I think in my head, I thought that maybe the reason it didn't work out was partly because he was more extroverted. And so I was like, oh, I just don't know if we can make this work, which speaks to some of the concerns that you had. Like, is she going to be that kind of person who you're used to dating?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure that it could work. But I think what I discovered in getting to know you is you have enough introversion that there's plenty of overlap between the two of us, and it does work out.
I mean, yeah. I think I'm quite ambiverted because I am like quite introverted. I'm pretty content just hanging out and not doing much, not seeing too many other people throughout the week. But then, yeah, I do like to have, I think, just a slightly wider circle of friends.
Yeah, you're more social than me, and so yeah, we had some of those discussions a lot in like early. We still do on occasion, but yeah, about like how social we want to be, how much do you want me to be a part of that world, and how you feel about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm assuming that there were no other things that were concerning to you about the two of us.
I don't think so. It's mainly the dynamic between like more extroversion, more introversion, essentially.
Well, how would you say we resolve that? Like, how do you feel about that now these days?
Pretty good. Yeah, it's such a difficult question to answer because it's been like kind of just a slow process of small adjustments over the last 4 years. But um, I'm I've become more introverted, I think, and also like it's just compromises, I guess. You know, like if I want to spend more time like with friends or whatever, then we just talk about it, and there's there's just a balance between like what Lindsay feels like she needs and I feel like I need, and I don't know, there's just a balance to it essentially, I guess that seems to work for both of us.
Yeah, like if he wants to spend more time with friends, I'll be like, okay, cool. Then the next day you and I will do something together, so I feel like I have my needs met. Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, Din. What are you excited about for the future? Like, let's say for 2024, what are you looking forward to in our relationship?
Well, we're gonna get married, and that'll be fun. And then just moving. We're gonna move out west to Arizona, so I think we're just stoked on that.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
Big changes, we have for us. Yeah, like currently we're in North Carolina. We're gonna be moving to Arizona, and I think the same. Like I'm looking forward to getting married and starting a new life basically in Arizona as a married couple. I think it'll be good. It'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll just be like a new adventure. And I don't know, there's just a lot of different new adventures. Like we're gonna probably make more content like this, so that'll be fun. I'm gonna start making more content too, and Lindsay's probably gonna guest star on my channel.
Oh, you're gonna have your own channel? Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. So. Yeah. All right. What are you gonna talk about?
I'm just gonna ramble at people and then just clip it up.
Okay. Well, good. Yeah. If you guys liked having Din on my channel and like some of the things that we're talking about, let us know in the comments and let us know what other questions you have, like what you'd like us to talk about. Again, Din is a licensed therapist, and if you are in North Carolina or in the future, if you'll be in Arizona, he'll be licensed there. Click on the link in the description to work with him, learn more about what he does.
Yeah, I specialize in mainly like sensitive men, but more broadly men who are anxious, depressed, or have some sort of trauma. So you can check out therapywithdin, DINH.com for more information.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Din's a great therapist. Yeah. Not that he's treated me, but your clients seem to be very, very happy with you, and they make good progress. So yeah, check them out.
Thank you, Lindsay.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. And let us know in the comments what else you want us to talk about, and we'll be back soon. Bye.
Bye.